Good afternoon, everybody. Happy 6 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Central. Oh, I think it's 3 o'clock in California, and I think it's tomorrow in Australia. Yep. I'm gonna wait. Hey, Alan, Chuck. Let's see where my man is here. Alan, hey, man. Appreciate you clicking in. Scott, Matt, Charlie. Charlie. Thank you, Charlie. I don't think I could keep it going if you didn't click in, Charlie. Hey, Joe. How many of you watch, Charlie? All of them, probably? Man, thank you so much for being a regular for me and someone I can count on. George, Joe, yeah, Tyler, and Ronnie, Scott. Man, look at that. Chuck, hey, man, good to see y'all. Thanks for the shout out. Thanks for calling me out. Thanks for the kudos. Hey, Scott. Yeah, man, I remember you from way back too, Scott. We've been around, haven't we? Dave. Yeah, I would give a shout out to my team, the Predators. You know, I'm like, when I moved to Nashville, I got like the Nashville Sounds, and I got the Titans, and you know, and the Predators. So I'm Mike. Listen, Mike, y'all done good, man. Chris gave me a couple updates. Y'all done good. I'll talk about it in a little bit. Thanks for clicking in, Mike. I know you're on the road or just finishing at the track. Kevin, Steve. Yeah, man, he did. Ronnie, Tim, Ben. Good to see y'all. Hey, that's Southern right there, Ben. That's a B-E-N. That's like a one-syllable word, Ben. But I make it a lot of syllables, like Ben. Yeah. And Ronnie. David. John. Yeah, today was a good day. That was good, man. A combination of a Motec, Monster Head, Bostic, Boom, Mo Laney, and little Richard, all them on there. I don't know who's the smallest, Richard or Chris. They're both pretty little. Hey, Chad, David, Greg. Okay, we got a good little feed going here. Let's talk about it. All right, I'm going to tell you all one thing about it. Number 111. That's right. This is Tech Talk number 111. 111 weeks in a row. Hey, Dawn and Seth. That's Dawn. Hey, Dawn, I haven't seen you in forever. I bet you got red hair and freckles, don't you? Hey, Larry. Yeah, I wanted to tell you all that. Yeah, look at my red hair and freckles. It all turned chrome. Look at it. Even my beard's chrome now. I got old or something happened to me. Bryce Corley. You got the coolest name, Bryce. Larry. Thank y'all. So, Tim, I wanted to tell you that Barry and Steve, wow. I'm humbled with the names. I'm humbled with the people that are clicking in. This is very cool. Hey, Chris. You driving yet, Chris? Yes, you do, Dawn. Barry, yep. Hey, look, I'm going to try now and stop reading the names for a minute. John, Brian, thank y'all. And try and think about what I'm going to say, which is, if you were me, yep, I know, John. God bless you, brother. Brian. Hey, look, so if you were me, you would have to stop reading and think about what you're going to say, because there's no telling what kind of gobbledygook comes out if I read and talk at the same time, which is what's happening the whole time you've been watching right now. So let's roll. Let's roll. Okay. Tech Talk number 111, man. 111 weeks in a row, we've been all gathered up here to talk about things that we are passionate about. We are all brothers in this same passion. You know, the good Lord made us. He made us in His image, and all of us that love hot rods and motorcycles and racing and high-performance engines and making more horsepower and making more performance, we all gather here and get to recognize and appreciate and celebrate the opportunities we have. And I just want to tell you that I have been blessed. Yes, I have. I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of knowledge. I have a lot of opportunity. I've been funded well over the years. I've been starved to death over the years. And I just wanted to tell you that I have always been. And Jackie and Julie, God bless them, they have dealt with it. I've been got a brain overload on how to go faster and how to make things work better, and I'm very thankful I get to do it. So I want to share some of that with you today. I wanted to talk about, since we have seen each other, since I've been on Tech Talk, I have been to the dyno with Buck, my street bike. Steve Johnson went and won the race in Reading, Pennsylvania, which is one of my favorite races. John Myers and I did good there always. And then when Angel got on our team, and that was her 4th event she ever entered back in 96 or 97, her 4th event she ever entered, and she set the world record and won. So that racetrack has always been real close to us as a family because of the success we've had there. But I got to see Steve and Angel run in the semis. That was very cool. They both ran good. They both those kids are doing really good. I was so thankful to see how good Angel has come, finally getting comfortable with her motorcycle. I know it's Vance and Hines, and I'm the anti-Vance and Hines. I know that. It's okay. But I'm still a big fan of good work, good talent, and performance. So let me tell you, I'm not mad at them. I'm just not their biggest fan. I'm just a fan. I'm not their biggest fan. But I am a big fan of Angel's because I met her when she was just a little baby, skinny little nurse, just coming out of nursing school that wanted to race a motorcycle more than she wanted to eat when she was hungry and more than she wanted water when she was thirsty. And that made a real big dent on me and my family over the decades. And I'm still appreciative of how good a job she does. Okay, on the Vance and Hines and Angel butt kissing, I'm through with that right now. But I want to just tell you all that Steve Spike is really fast. He's got the monster head, which I helped develop. I don't want to take a bunch of credit away from the people that really made this work. And I'm going to name off some off the top of my head. Mitch Brown and his friend Niles over there that did the programming. When we were at Star Racing back in 2012, 2013, we proposed we were going to run one in Pro Stock, so we got the billet head from Mitch, number 1 or 2 or 3, and we sent it to NHRA, and we had it sent it in for approval so we could try and beat the Vance and Hines team that had the double overhead cam 4-valve Harley, and we were running little 2-valve S&S engines, so they were running 4-valve, and so I said the only way the Suzukis are going to be able to run with them, and the only way the Buell S&S engines were going to be able to run with them was to get a 4-valve combination. So we got the 4-valve done. Mitch and Niles and his boys over in Wichita, Kansas, my boys in Star Racing, Ron Reese poured it on it for forever because it's really hard aluminum, and then Greg Cope was working there at the time, and he poured it on it, and we came up with 4 different good ports. We sit in the cylinder head to a place up north, which from me is up north. Up by you, it might be south, but it was a place called Exact Metrology. I don't know what they do today. I'm sure they do the same thing, but they had a really cool program for pro stock cars and NASCAR guys that if they had a port that they loved, they sent it to Exact Metrology like on a Monday afternoon. Exact Metrology would get it in, and they would do a light scan on the combustion chamber, the intake port, and the exhaust port, and they could do it overnight, and they could send you emailable surfaces for the CNC to get turned into a tool path for the CNC machine, and they could do that overnight. So we could send the head on Monday, get it back on Wednesday, and put it back on the motorcycle and go race. So when we were running the S&S Buell and we were making some real high advancements, we were going faster and faster every week, we could take the cylinder heads off of the S&S engine, send them to Exact Metrology. They would do a scan and send us back surfaces to turn into tool paths. And I think I'm saying this right. And Mitch Brown's the one that was doing that stuff for us, and then with the machining equipment. But the 4-valve head that Steve Johnson and Chris Bostic are running right now is called the Monster Head. It belongs to Mitch Brown. He owns that company. He and I were partners in the Pro Stock version, or the 4-valve version of that Monster, not the 4-valve version, but the Monster Head. And we spent a lot of money and a lot of time. I know Mitch spent thousands and thousands of dollars and hours, and I spent thousands and thousands of dollars and hours. Mitch did a lot of good stuff. Brad Mummert's got the fastest one in the world so far. I know he doesn't. There's a guy with a turbo bike that has one. So the fastest turbo that I know of 4-valve has Mitch's head on it. Brad Mummert's nitrous motor has Mitch's head on it. Chris Bostic's does, and Steve Johnson does. And Travis Davis is going in the 3s and 8th mile with the Monster Head. So it is finally, y'all, 10 years later, this thing is finally starting to show some fruit and start to really make some hay. NHRA turned down our proposed cylinder head. They said they went to their advisors that, the way I heard, if I was a fly on the wall, I heard that they were getting advice from a company in Indiana that's already was making cylinder heads for Pro Stock, and they said that there was no need for an additional head because the Suzukis were fast enough and the Buells were fast enough and the Harleys were fast enough, so there was no need for an additional head for the NHRA to have to deal with. So fast forward, while that just was flopping around in the background doing Pro Mod, turbos, nitrous, just building at a really slow pace, winning races in Europe, winning races in Australia, that same cylinder head. And now Vance and Hines asked NHR if they could propose a 4-valve billet head for their Suzuki customers a year ago, and it got approved. So right away we're like, wow, they can be approved. So I guess Mitch and a couple of his friends, I think it was Rhett Lucky, sent in another proposal, got Suzuki involved, where they sent a letter asking for a proposal approval so that we could run that cylinder head. So it finally became legal. Chris Bostic bought 2 of them, Steve Johnson bought 2 of them, and they started jamming fast as they could on it, got them going. And Chris went out and ran 680s right away with it. Steve Johnson went 680s with it right away. And at Charlotte this year in 2021, Steve Johnson went a 672 with a 9. He's been 198 miles an hour with it. And then we're so thankful, and he showed off so good that he went 677 in the finals at Reading and outran Eddie Krawick in the final. Everybody doesn't have a great race. You know, Matt's bike's the fastest all the time. Eddie Krawick's is neck fastest all the time, and Steve Johnson's is usually in the top 4. So it was really great to see Steve come out there and run. He was low, 2nd round, 3rd round, 4th round, and he ran top speed for any Suzuki all weekend. He was, Mitch Brown and I claim that it's the quickest and fastest Suzuki cylinder head out there. But I also know, yeah, you're right, Mike. I just happened to sneak a little word where you were listening to them come from the top end. That's a whole different perspective. They sound good, don't they? Those engines are awesome. Even the 2-valve twins sound good coming from in the top end. But back to the approval deal there. So the new 4-valve head is now, it's the old 4-valve head. But what we did was we created a Pro Stock port that I own, and I sent the scan data from Exact Metrology to Mitch. Mitch had his guys turn it into a toolpath, so Mitch offers the Pro Stock port as an option, which, listen, if you buy one of those monster heads from Mitch, and I bet you should because it's fast and it doesn't cost a lot, you need to buy one of those for your Suzuki. And when you get it and look at it and you say, wow, look at those ports, man, they look awesome. Well, they're about half the size of what the Pro Stock needs. And so you get Mitch to do the additional work it takes to put the Pro Stock port in it, and puts a little bit bigger valves in, but giant ports. It's where you can put a 52 millimeter throttle body or electron on it so that you can get enough air in there. Now, this cylinder head design is not based on velocity. Everybody asks me, what does it flow? What's the velocity? Well, if you make the valve as big as will fit in the head, and then you cut in the valve job where it's about 92% of the valve job to get the throat area, and then you make the other end, which is only about 3 or 4 inches long, big enough to fit a 52 millimeter carburetor or throttle body, then all you got to do is connect the dots with it decreasing from the big old carburetor hole down to the valve hole, slightly decreasing in area, and it will flow all it can flow. It will be as big as it can be, and it will be awesome. And if it doesn't make, if the airspeed is too slow for you, I don't know why you measure it other than just to have that number. But whenever we see when somebody says the airspeed is too low, I don't even know what airspeed is, because it is a snapshot. It is a microsecond. It's like injector pulse width. And it's just so minute that at that RPM, at that crank angle, at that piston speed, at that valve opening, at that flow, it's got this much air speed. Air speed is just one of the things you measure, man. It's just one of those things you measure. So going back to it, I wanted to say thank you for Mitch and all the guys back in the history of 10 years working on this project that came from a little drawing on a piece of paper to now being a very competitive package. Chris Bostic tested today. I saw Mike on here, and he went really fast today. I think it's his personal best ET he went. It would have been good enough to win some rounds for sure. in Reading, and I think they're all going to North Carolina this weekend. So if you guys are watching Tech Talk Tuesday or you follow me, go and watch Chris Bostic and see how he does, and follow Steve Johnson and see how he does, because they're running Suzuki's. I'm a Harley guy. I'm a Hot Rod Chevrolet guy, Ford, Chrysler, Hemis. I love all those racing engines. So please understand that when I am talking about a Suzuki, I'm not talking about a brand. If I'm talking about a Harley, I'm not talking about a brand. I'm talking about a cylinder and a crankshaft and head and valves and camshafts and springs and retainers and locks and things that make fuel and air go in, squeeze it real tight, light it, and make a big bang, turn the crankshaft, open the exhaust valve, and blow all that stuff out as fast as you can and as much pressure as you can make. So I'll read all these things that you guys are putting on here after I get done talking, but I got so much more to cover. And I'm going to flip off of my mug to this page, to this screen, and we're going to talk about it a little bit more. So stand by. Here we go. All right, I put on this board down here, I wanted y'all to notice that I am very thankful to say this is Tech Talk 111. And I am George Bryce III, and Kip at Cam Motion calls me GB111. That's George Bryce Sr., George Bryce Jr., and George Bryce III. And I'm the third, so 111. Now, that makes a special day for me. But I want to tell you, I want to talk just a minute about a flow curve. Now, we've seen flow charts where it says what it flows at 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 at 28 inches of depression. A flow curve, I just drew this off the top of my head, so just bear with me for a minute. A flow curve can be generated by the software from the flow bench, or you can just put it on a graph paper where you have, let's see, you have valve, let me make sure I'm doing this right, valve lift this way and CFM this way. And if you'll notice, this curve is really, as you open the valve, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600, 700 lift, notice how fast the rate is gaining. And then it gets up real high lift, 500, 600, 700. Notice how it tapers off. And then it eventually will go flat. Over here, while it's gaining, this is kind of, I mean, I just made this up in my head, so it's not real accurate what this is, but this is how a flow curve would look on a flow chart. 100 CFM at low lift, 200 CFM at low lift, 300 CFM at low lift. These are really, this would look like a 4-valve flow curve, and a 2-valve flow curve would come up a little more gradual and maybe cross over at the top. But this one, I wanted you to see what a flow curve looks like. And we talk about what the head flows all the time. Everybody wants to know what the head flows, and I'm going to tell you something about it right here. Because also I want you to know that duration of your camshaft. Let's see if I can get that squeezed in here somewhere, because that's what matters here. Excuse me. Can you guys hear me okay and see this okay? I know I got a glare on the screen, but can y'all see me okay and hear me okay? Wow, those lights are bright, aren't they? It's like I'm in a studio or something. Please don't get seasick watching this. Okay. When you have a camshaft and it has 250 degrees duration, and that's what you read, or 260, or whatever it is you order or you see on the internet you want your cam to be. Maybe you want a 280 cam. Maybe you want a 290 duration cam for real big horsepower and real big RPM. These numbers are at some lift, like in the lift curve. 50 thou off the seat, the intake valve is 50 thou off the seat. It may be measured all the way to 50 thou to close. And if it's 50 thou, 50 off the seat opening and 50 thou off the seat closing, if it has 250 duration, I just want you to know that if you checked it at 100 off and back on, and 200 on and off, back on, 300 back off and back on, 400 off and back on, I wanted you to know these duration numbers go way down. So at 50 thou lift, the duration would be 250, but say at 100 lift, it might be only 220. And at 300 lift, it might be only 190. And at 400 lift, it might only be 100 degrees duration. This is what I wanted to tell you. Right here at full lift, it has 0 degrees duration. So if you're really excited about having a head that flows a lot of air at 500 lift, and you have a 500 lift cam, you are spending no time, zero time at 500 lift. And your cam has no duration at peak lift. So if you're wanting your cylinder heads to match, listen to this carefully. If you want your cylinder heads to match the camshaft, so people say, why would you build a head that flows 600 lift or 700 lift and your flow curve falls off right here at 500? If your flow curve falls off at 500 lift, let's say right here, you see it doesn't gain anymore. 500 lift, 600 lift, 700 lift, 800 lift. So your head stops gaining at 500 lift. So you come over here to this cam and you say, well, let's get a 500 lift cam in here. Now you got the flow curve over here where it shows it quits gaining at 500 lift. And then you got a cam that's 500 lift. But you're spending 250 degrees duration of your camshaft at 50 all the way through and all the way back to 50. You're spending zero time at full lift, which is where your head levels off. Let me tell you how to fix this. This is why 2 valves and 4 valves love lift, y'all. Put a 600 lift cam in it. Now, if you put a 600 lift cam, it has zero duration at 600. But it has a lot of duration at 500. It has a lot of duration at 50, 100, 200. It has a lot of duration. Because look at the cam. Now it's open longer at these high numbers, which allows us to go here. And if we get it to 600, we're going to be using more of this curve off of our flow curve based on our camshaft. That's why many engines love more lift. Like if you put a 700 lift cam in it, now look how much duration you have at 500 lift. You have all this duration at 500 lift instead of 0 degrees duration. Does that make sense to you? I hope so. Now I'm going to talk about a 4 valve versus a 2 valve just for a minute. I'm going back over here to the chart. But remember what I showed you about your lift on your cam and your duration. So watch this right here. 4 valve flow curve could look like this. And a 2 valve flow curve could look like this. Now, the head, this 4 valve head may only flow 300 CFM here. And this 2 valve head may flow, not 300 CFM, it may flow 300 CFM at 500, the 4 valve. Can you all watch this? Okay. Say the 2 valve, look, on this flow curve, it flows 400 CFM. That's got to be better because this head, this 2 valve head, I'm so sorry I'm screwing up, y'all. This 2 valve head flows 400 CFM at 700 lift. Yet this 4 valve head only flows 300 lift at 500. But when your camshaft's running and your piston's going down on the intake stroke, look at this area under this curve. This is how much more air is going in your engine. Wow. This camshaft is working where its duration is. 100 lift, 200 lift, 300 lift, 400 lift, 500 lift. So at 100 lift, 200 lift, when the piston's going down on the intake stroke, this is how much more air we're pulling in. And there's tons of duration here. There's 250, there's 220, there's all of this duration here is being gobbled and gulped in here, whereas your 2 valve head or your high flow head that's flow bench derived might flow 500 CFM over here past 800. But if you have an 800 lift cam, you're only spending 0 degrees duration at full lift at 500 CFM. But you're spending way less time where you're really getting a lot of flow in these mid lifts. I know that's very confusing, and I'm sorry. I didn't describe it any better than that. That's what's all cool about a 2-valve versus a 4-valve, is we don't need as much camshaft to get that gulp of air. I bragged on Steve about his running the monster head that Mitch Brown owns. I've been a partner or a part of it, or you see me, watch me post, see me bragging on Steve. I'm a fan of Steve's. I'm also a fan of Angel's. I'm also a fan of several people that race out there. I'm a fan of Pro Stock Motorcycle. I don't want to race in Pro Stock Motorcycle. I don't want to be on a team. I don't want to race again. I did it. I did it so much it wasn't fun anymore. But where I'm standing now, it's fun to watch because I know a little bit about what's going on. And I'm like that farmers where they say, we know a thing or two because we've seen a thing or two. And I know it's easy for the guys that are racing to say, he's old, he's antiquated, he's a has-been, he used to know. And when Steve goes out there and runs good, and it's with what we did a few years ago with what we used to know that's been refined with camshaft timing and some nice piston design, and Steve and Jock and all his guys tuning and driving, it's very, very rewarding to see that finally bear fruit. And I'm very happy for Steve and thankful to be involved. But, that's why he said my name on TV, y'all. It ain't because I sent him any money. I just give him my opinions when he asks for them, and sometimes I give him my opinions when he don't ask for them. But I'm a fan. Buck, I went and ran him at the drag strip 2 weeks ago. It went at 1040, 129 miles an hour. I was a little bit disappointed, but it was 100 degrees, and that was costing us some horsepower. Since I went and ran it, I put 2 teeth on the back sprocket. This thing rips now. I drove it today. I had to come home and take a shower because it was so fast. I downloaded some data. That's a joke. Sorry. And we ran 2 or 3 different pipe lengths and muffler sizes, and we were able to get it to gain a bunch of power through the RPM range that we're running. I did an intake system change. Like I said, 2 teeth on the rear sprocket, tuned it better. Now I expect Buck to go over 130 miles an hour, and I'm still running 93 Chevron or BEP or whatever it is they had at the Harley shop. When I dynoed it the first time at Bumpus Harley in Murfreesboro, they had shop gas. They said it was 93. I made 175 to 180 horse there with it. Different shape of the power curve. And then this past week, I did it at Moonshine Harley in Franklin, Tennessee, and they also had 93 octane gas that they buy at the gas pump. And since it doesn't detonate because the torque curve, let me tell you about that. When you see a torque curve that looks like this and you're operating right in here, I'm sorry that I did so fast. What a wonderful, what was a wonderful opportunity to get to try all this out and learn all this stuff. I'm thankful for you guys watching. And remember, we're all brothers and sisters in this passion we have for motorsports and high performance engines. I don't care if it's a Chrysler or a Chevy or Ford, Mopar, American Motors, or BMW. I don't care. Porsches, I love all high performance engines, man. Kawasaki, Suzuki, Yamaha, Harley Davidson, and some of them aren't supposed to be high performance engines, like my own Harley. This right here, Buck, this is a 2003 CVO Road King. It's supposed to make 70 horsepower, maybe 75, and we got it making over 180 horsepower now. So that right there was a lot of fun to learn about, and I'm going to keep working on this, and I look forward to seeing you guys next Tuesday when it will be Tech Talk number 112. And my socks say, see you next Tuesday. May God bless y'all. Going to the drag strip again soon. I'm going to the Bristol race to watch the Cup cars run. And I'm going to keep working on my hot rods, and I'm going to keep sharing my information and my knowledge and experience and opportunities because they're all gifts to me from our good Lord. Thank you. May God bless. Good night.